It is ironic to say that technology is unpredictable by nature, the sole purpose being how it can make our lives easier, yet it remains impossible to predict how it actually integrates into our lives. And today we have somebody who knows a thing or two about tech in our industry, Brandon Reitsma. A DP and head tech at Ontario Camera, Brandon has spent his years on big commercial sets, but he has also had an affinity for the tools that fuel our industry. And today, Brandon shares his thoughts on how this may affect all our careers and the importance of everything outside of it. So welcome to the Applebox Podcast. I'm your host, Danny Lau, and I'm sitting alongside my co-host, Anthony Valtsinas, and sitting across of us today, the man of the hour, Brandon Reitsma. Let's get it. Welcome to the Applebox Podcast. We are here today with Brandon Reitsma.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Who is a DP and works head technician at OC, if I'm not mistaken. Tell us a little bit about yourself and who you are.
Yeah, so my name is Brandon Reitsma. I'm 26 now. I've been in the film industry professionally probably for about 6 or 7 years now. I did the 2-year program at Seneca York way back when in 2016. And I feel like just like most film school students while I was there, I was abusing the system, shooting music videos with all the school gear while I could, trying to make some of that
Might as well
tuition
make
money.
use of the film school, right?
Yeah. And I was trying to make some of that, tuition money back and obviously apply, what I was learning in the classroom kind of in the real world. So yeah, for a couple years in film school, I was shooting those random 3-location Airbnb music videos. So hopefully none of those still have my name on it or anything like that.
We all have projects like that we don't want to put our name to.
Yeah,
that
and
done.
At that time, the gimbals were kind of becoming a little more mainstream in the market. The DJI came out with the Ronin, so I kind of taught myself that.
Oh, classic.
Yeah, so that kind of really stepped up the music video stuff I was doing early on in the game, just adding that cinematic movement.
Yeah.
So I learned that early on, and I feel like that kind of helped me branch my way into kind of the bigger side of things.
Nice.
So shortly after I left school, I actually got hired at Henry's, the camera store, funny enough.
Well, which one? Which location?
Mississauga. So her, Ontario, and Eglinton.
Yeah.
So I was there for a couple years before we moved to Heartland.
Yeah.
Which is very close to where I live now.
Yeah.
And I remember back in 2016 when I had my interview with my first boss, I remember him saying to me, he's like, I can tell you're going to be best friends with this other pro video guy we have here named Dimitri. And Dimitri was another DP that lives in Mississauga with me as well. And we became best of friends after our second shift. We just had, so we just had, exactly.
Yeah.
So we had a lot in common, very similar kind of mindsets in terms of our approach to things. He shot a lot more narrative stuff. I kind of had a much more of a music video background kind of starting into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just hit it off. Very good friends off the bat, very similar mindsets. And then he kind of paved the way for me in the bigger side of things. So I was starting to shadow on his big web series at the time that he was kind of getting a bunch of nominations and awards for. And I really didn't know anything at the time. I didn't know what a first AC was, what a second AC was, a DIT. I just kind of...
So you're just learning.
Yeah, it was the first big thing I saw out of school. And I don't think film school really prepares anyone for the grand scale of things.
That's so funny because film school is a topic that we do bring up sometimes with people. And we've had that conversation with Griff. We just had that conversation with Mike Ray the other day, director. And we hear the same thing all the time about it. And I don't want to bash it personally because I've never been there. So I don't want to speak out of term. But for somebody who's been in film school, what are some of the benefits of it and what are some of the disadvantages of it? Because I know a lot of people are probably wondering who are starting out. They're like, do I go to film school?
Of course. Yeah, my opinion on it's very 50-50. I come from the mindset of you're going to get what you want out of something if you're willing to put the work into it. So every day that I was going to class, I was very much keen on asking questions that I wanted the answers to. I wasn't going to wait till week 14 to kind of wait to figure out what the difference...
Wait till the curriculum hit what you want to learn.
And I just had so many questions early on, the difference between an f-stop and a t-stop, little things like that I just, wanted to kind of advance my knowledge on early on. So I was very keen on asking those questions and kind of getting close with the professors and learning what I wanted to know. I already knew how to shoot going into school. I was already kind of shooting on red and doing kind of stuff like that and knowing the exposure triangle. So first and second year really didn't do too much for me.
Yeah.
But learning the business side of things and just seeing how budgets are broken down, how the money's spent like on a film production set and just kind of like how that money flows. That was really, really valuable to see.
Right.
Even though I'm not in like the shoes of a producer, but just kind of understanding that workflow and that mindset's like really helped just my approach for pre-production on things.
Absolutely.
And just like having those like conversations early on about budget and everything.
Well, I find like you're a director, whether you're a director or director of photography, regardless, like you need to know how that works, especially for a director.
Yeah.
But as a DP, you probably don't need to, but it does help you.
Yeah.
And you need to understand it. At least.
Absolutely. Because for me, it just really opened my eyes to what other departments needed. Like really early on in my career, I was like, why does makeup need this kind of budget? Like I want more for camera. Give me Hawks.
I could get lenses.
Yeah, exactly. I can get anamorphics now. But now like working on bigger stuff over the years, I've seen like the value that each department has to add.
Yeah.
And it's like, why make a 10 to 20 minute lighting tweak when, a makeup artist can come in and just add like a little filler and just take out a highlight or something like that. So it's just knowing like how each department works and kind of how they add. That's been the real value of film school for me.
But here's the thing though, like I feel like you can learn that on the field without film school.
Absolutely.
So you don't need to pay tuition. It's almost like if you had the choice to pay $50,000 in tuition for film school or pay $50,000 worth of like saying, I don't know, going up to someone who's experienced and being like, I'll pay you to be on your set.
Yeah.
I think you save money going on set.
For sure. You're absolutely right. Yeah. Like doing it all over again, I don't know if I would do film school just because, like I said, no one's really asked me for my diploma or anything like that. But I do think the experience I got from it, just in terms of, like I said, understanding budget breakdowns. And
it was positive for you.
Exactly. Right. And of course,
so it is relative.
It does force you to kind of be around like-minded people as well. And those relationships have obviously kind of carried me quite a bit now as well. So
and I think I think it's just early on, like in just the film industry in general, like it was kind of like almost getting into it was like this kind of secretive thing maybe.
Yeah.
And like film school, I guess, was like a transition point for like, okay, people started to realize, oh, I can probably go do this as a career. How do I do that? Okay, film school is like an obvious, easy fix to like transition into that. But now with like the internet, YouTube, like the stuff that's available, like the knowledge and access to information is like crazy. And then people on Instagram, like you can connect with people instantly and just like, I want a PA, I want to just get involved. Like
quite literally, yeah. Back then you couldn't DM a director of photography on a big commercial. There's no way
like my first
talk to them.
First PA gig ever. I pulled up with a pink tank top, no idea what I'm doing. And there was a music video, and Chris Belchevsky was DPing.
Oh, nice.
And I didn't know who he was, obviously. But like I think even back then it was like maybe 6 years ago, like talking to him or even messaging him on Instagram would be like an impossible thing.
Yeah.
So but now like DPs are so accessible, probably, especially if you're like passionate. It's like.
Especially if you're passionate, a lot of times is hunger, right?
Yeah,
I like to help a lot of people who are trying to transition to the industry. And so a lot of times, and even in this podcast, I like to ask questions for them, so people can understand and hear from different minds and different careers and perspectives. And, a lot of times I feel like, it's crazy the accessibility you have these days to be able to just reach out to somebody. You can just DM a Brandon, you could DM Anthony, you could DM me, and you could get access to us. Whereas back then it was kind of like you had to know somebody on the set to then maybe put your name out there that can maybe get you a PA gig and get you in.
But I think one thing that is cool at film school, because I was only there part-time for a year at Ryerson or TMU. I think it's kind of like almost like the old like Southern California, like George Lucas kind of group of people.
Yeah.
Like it's like you're together, you're in this kind of like incubator where you just may have to make stuff because you're paying for it.
Yeah.
And I think meeting those people could be pretty cool.
Absolutely.
So I think that's like, that would be for me the benefit of going. It's like, this is your world now.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, like it definitely filters out the people like who are there to win it versus not. Like the difference between like first semester and like fourth year, for example. Like you can really tell like who
lasted.
Yeah, exactly. And like who's here to actually be here and like make something of the career versus kind of like who's testing the waters type thing.
Yeah.
So that's always an interesting process.
And I also think like these days, especially like there's like a lot of people start off as videographers in the freelance world. And a lot of times videography it's a solo thing, right? So you don't necessarily meet people in the industry.
Absolutely.
Right? There's two different routes.
True. Yeah.
And so like the best route, I would say who knows? But if you're looking to get into like high level commercials or even narrative, you need to be in those crowds.
Absolutely.
So you need to get there.
Absolutely.
So videography does nothing for you.
And that's kind of what Dimitri did for me. Cause like, to be honest with you, before he started bringing me onto these like bigger sets to kind of shadow him and just kind of see what that life is like, I didn't know what an Alexa Mini was. I didn't know what what this world could be beyond like a broadcast studio. And it's been such an adventure ever since. So I'm super, super thankful for him to just kind of mentoring me and paving me the way just kind of from the bottom.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's true. It's kind of about like who you know and your networking game for sure. And just like what you guys said with Instagram, like even those 2 years that I was working at Henry's, I was constantly, you know, messaging other DPs, directors, just about like hanging out and going for coffee and not even like expecting anything really of it. And I wasn't really trying to like sell myself for a job, just two like-minded people with interesting styles.
And now he knows who you are.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just trying to put a face to the name and just say, you know, this is what I do. Not trying to like, you know, mooch you for a job or anything like that. But like I said, I like what you do. I like your style, I like your creativity. And, you know, if anything opens down the road where there's a doorway for us to work together, let's take the opportunity, right?
And I think, go ahead.
Yeah, like I think if you're just honest, like about your, like just if you're just yourself,
I was just about to say
people
that.
will feel that.
Yeah,
like, if
exactly.
You can tell like intuitively in your body, like if someone's trying to like put something over on you, or like they're trying to get something out of you, or whatever it is, right? If someone's just chill and like you're vibing, then it's easy to gauge. Of course. Right?
But I think that's a great like tip for networking. Like whenever you meet somebody, it's not about, hey, can I get a job? Or you're not interviewing for a job, right? And the key to networking is to show that you are willing and you're hungry and you're passionate and you're part of this community.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
You want to be part of it. And I think that is what helps usually get you jobs. They'll remember you as like, oh, hey, Brandon was this really nice kid, you know, and maybe we can use a PA, and hey, you know, like that's how it usually works.
Absolutely.
You know? But
and yeah, like at first, like don't get me wrong, there was tons of DMs that were just like left on seen or read.
Oh,
and, like,
100%.
Of course.
Yeah,
and
of
like
course.
the key is not to take it personally, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Like luckily I was probably like 19, 20 when I was doing that.
Okay.
But even then I realized, you know, these people are much bigger than me. I'm sure they're super busy on set doing 18-hour days. So I'm not going to take it personally if they forget to respond to someone they don't know they are.
Exactly.
So did you like, if you didn't meet Dimitri, what would would you have just kept down like the music video route, or like what do you think would happen?
It's kind of interesting because like later on in the year, like working at Henry's and everything, he took a big feature and he took, it was kind of crazy. He took a month off to go shoot it. And I was shocked that our boss at the time let him do it.
Yeah.
And then he looked at me and he said, hey, like, do you want to gimbal op on this feature? And I was like, absolutely, but there's no way I'm getting a month off to go do this after you did.
Yeah.
So I had to go make like a deal with the devil at the time. And I went to my boss and I said, I know he just asked for 4 weeks off. I'm going to ask for the same thing, but I'm willing to come work on weekends as well, which was a terrible decision on my end.
Because then you're shooting Monday to Friday.
Yeah, I'm doing like Fridays to like
Jesus
4 in the morning,
Christ.
overnights, going to work the next day. But I wouldn't have traded that experience for the world because, like I said, like that opportunity, I think, opened other DPs' minds to maybe giving me a chance operating on something. Because, like I said, I did such a long format thing early on.
Yeah.
And I think, like I said, that just kind of helped kind of pave the way for me to operate on a bunch more stuff.
Yeah.
But if he didn't give me that chance, I think I would have just done the same thing I was doing and just continue to try and just create relationships with people just over like common interest and see where kind of that opportunity lies. But I never wanted anything to feel forced or anything like that.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I think that feature, which is still not out to this day.
No
Who knows
way.
what's going to
Oh,
happen
really?
with that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we shot it in 2017 and it looks amazing. And we did a couple pickups a year after, but I've absolutely no clue what they're doing in post.
way.
It's
Damn.
so beyond me at that point.
Wow.
But at the same time, that experience still to this day kind of paved the way and kind of opened a lot of doors for me to work with other people. And my gateway into the commercial side of things was also through gimbal opping as well, which is kind of funny enough.
Yeah.
Like I said, a lot of people know I'm the head tech at OC, and a random phone call came in there one day from a US production, just looking for a gimbal operator for this like big commercial they had. And, you know, I said, hey, like, you know, I operate if you guys need anyone. So I did a job with them at the Toronto Zoo, just like operating the spot for them, which was super, super fun.
Yeah.
And I kind of had to backseat DP the thing because the director who was from New York was like a director DP, but he was like an internal agency director. So he didn't really.
Oh, wow.
I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, so he didn't really have like kind of that technical understanding. So I was like, hey, like, you know, maybe we should put the floppy here or add a light here.
Sometimes you got to do that.
Yeah. So after that, they actually started hiring me for DP stuff, which was great. So
Nice.
yeah, 21 years old, I was doing a couple big agency commercials, and
Nice.
I did a big high speed one when I was like 21 years old, like 3 cameras. There was one on a bolt arm, 1,000 frames, all different frame rates.
Wow.
And funny enough, Barry Chong was actually the bolt operator on that for me. It was
Barry
like,
Chong bolt operates?
yeah,
Why has he not told us this?
It was like
That's
way
crazy.
back when
Okay.
2D like first got their robot.
Yeah.
So it was like a
Jesus.
really cool experience
That's
for
so
me,
dope.
but the amount of mathematics I was calculating like weeks prior about like 3 cameras, 3 different frame rates, like how many foot candles do I need to be away from this product? And it was like a whole different side of cinematography that I was never used to or aware of.
Right.
And I remember just having so much anxiety building up to that day. I'm like 19, 20 years old, trying to impress this giant agency. They think I can do this giant high-speed commercial. I have no clue what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm doing all the math and like Googling like weeks prior on like phantom stuff, bolt stuff, like calculating frame rates and stops of light, and like doing the math over and over with my gaffer to make sure like everything kind of worked out. And luckily everything came according to plan.
It worked.
Sick.
But yeah, now everything feels like so easy to me after that, to be honest with you. It's like once you kind of like figure that stuff out, everything else is like, okay, it's not so bad. But yeah, so it was a nice like early run of like big commercials early on. And now I just kind of operate more these days, and I pull focus as well. And I do a lot of second unit stuff.
Oh, okay.
But I kind of stopped chasing like the big DP kind of goal, like on bigger shows and stuff like that. And after seeing like a bunch of people kind of make their way to the top, it just seems like there's so much pre-production on these shows before you
all
actually like,
pre-production.
get to shooting.
Yeah, it's all pre-production.
And it's like, I don't really want to become an executive producer at that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
Yeah. So I'm really enjoying this life I have as like being the head camera technician at OC, and still being able to go out and DP commercials and operate on commercials and focus pull on that stuff.
But something
and,
where you're like a gun for hire, you show up and you shoot it.
yeah,
Type of thing,
exactly.
yeah.
And it's kind of like a really good balance that I have as well. Cause you know,
Yeah.
I have a 9-to-5 job where I kind of get to go home and live a normal life and have a bit of that. And I can also go and live the circus as well and enjoy the rodeo and go do a bit of everything. Yeah. So I wouldn't trade it for the world. And like when those opportunities come to work on the bigger narrative stuff, like sure, I'll take it if the time's right. But I find with the narrative stuff, like you have to really, really care about the story, or really enjoy working with the crew, or else
the process
That's
behind the scenes
Yeah.
is very important. Like you got to love that.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a nice balance I have between like some office stuff and being a technician and dealing with all the all the service side of things.
Yeah.
And it's nice being able to give back as well, because I've always looked at it as like so many people in this industry in Toronto have helped me like get to where I am in my career. So if there's anything I can do to give back to them, that's like the least that I can do.
That's the most beautiful thing about the industry in Toronto that I find is everybody's like that.
Absolutely.
Everybody who's made it somewhere or has made this something in their life, like everyone wants to give back.
Yeah.
And it's so easy, especially to all the people who are new. Like, don't be afraid to reach out. Like maybe you won't get a response, like you said, from everybody, but there will be somebody out there who would probably be willing to help you.
Absolutely. And I find Toronto so willing to do that. Like we've all borrowed gear from someone. Absolutely. And even all the rental houses are all pretty willing to help and do whatever we can. And even the guys at OC are great. Bob at the front's always willing to help everyone out as much as we can. And our camera techs, Zach and James, are phenomenal. Such great knowledge from both of them. Very techie. They're always willing to help people over the phone when that happens. And even the guys in the back warehouse are willing to help out where they can and making sure the trucks are always ready to go and fueled up and making sure that no one has any problems type thing. But yeah, it's the least we can do, because like I said, I feel like so many people have helped us and helped me be in the position where I am today. So the one thing I want to do is make sure that I can give back and help people make sure they're able to get to where they want to go as well. So
yeah, for sure.
So how long have you been at OC?
I've been there for 5 years now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's
Long
been a
time.
while. So yeah, Dan started the company in 2015. I joined in like late 2017, and it was actually
Pretty early
right
on,
after that feature I did
okay.
early on. It was like a couple weeks after that. I was on like the tail end of leaving Henry's because there was some new management that came in, and this new guy that came in, basically everyone quit the store within like 2 weeks of this guy coming in. Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Damn.
So shortly after that, Jordan Oram actually texted me, believe it or not. He's like, yo, Dan's looking for a camera prep guy. You'd be like the perfect candidate for this. Like, you better call him right then and there. So I remember emailing Dan, and I think within like 20 minutes, he responded to me about like coming in for an interview. And then, I've been there at the company ever since, just kind of helping them grow and expand. And it's been a journey.
Yeah, this is pretty early on. 2 years in.
Yeah.
Still an early company, I would say.
Yeah.
Especially in the rental game.
Absolutely. But it's
And-
been growing so fast, which is crazy.
Oh yeah, you
It's
guys
like,
are one of the major rental houses.
yeah, and
around here,
it's hard to keep up, and I think that's kind of what like people forget. It's like we definitely want to be the size of Whites, but it comes in time. Believe me,
that's
of
only
course.
time.
Yeah, like we want to have all the cherry pickers
Of
and all the
course.
cool toys, but
Yeah.
we need storage and a bigger building to do that in as
Yeah.
well, right? So, but yeah, it's been a good role for sure.
So you're still young, like 26. Like, how long do you think you're gonna kind of ride this nice balance that you have of like you said, 9 to 5, still in the industry, obviously, and then like obviously, like I guess freelancing. Like, where do you see 5 years from now? Like, what's the game?
Yeah, like 5 years from now, I think I'll still hopefully be doing both. I kind of want to ride the benefits of both worlds as long as I can. Because if I haven't had to make a decision on one or the other yet, why would I force myself to do it now?
True.
In terms of like the on-set stuff, yeah, I'm definitely pushing careers, pushing like more opportunities and stuff. I'm definitely willing to DP commercials, no problem. Second unit stuff, operate, gimbal, whatever it may be. Cool. If any of the DPs that I currently work for still need focus pullers, like I'm open to doing that. I love being a technician. Doesn't bother me if I'm operating or focus pulling. It's kind of a nice break from breaking my back with the easy rig or the ready rig on and kind of sitting back with the wheel. Not that that's any easier at all, but still kind of a nice mix. But for me, it's kind of a nice balance being a technician on set and also being a DP, because I have those days I can show up and just worry about the technical side, and those days that I kind of have to show up and I kind of have to deal with the brand, the agency, the brand guidelines.
Be the manager.
Yeah, pretty much, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of nice having that back and forth.
Yeah.
In terms of things at OC, like we're constantly trying to grow. I think I'll probably hopefully grow into more of a lens technician role. Hopefully there's talk about maybe doing some lens training and stuff like that. So that would be a nice kind of thing to work towards. And I'm already pretty techie with all the cameras now. I'm trying to do some RE service training just to kind of bring the company to the next level. But yeah, the plan is just to keep growing, expanding, and hopefully become much more of a serious player.
Yeah.
We just partnered with Style Photos as well, which is this big giant VR studio that we have in Mississauga. It's 40 feet by 15, 8K resolution. They have a couple 35s, Venices in house there.
And Ari just featured them, didn't they? On
Yeah,
the page?
so Ari designed the whole thing for them, which is great.
Oh, that's
really?
That's crazy.
So they have a really, really cool setup there.
Wow.
And when they first gave me the tour, the one thing that I've never seen before, like the other studios have that they've kind of done differently, is that their ceiling is all sky panels, S360s.
Oh, that's
So it's
sick.
really cool because whatever you project,
360s.
yeah, or sorry, S60s. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
They do have a couple 360s there, but
big lights on the roof.
yeah, no, it's all S60s.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
that's still amazing though.
Yeah,
That's
and it's cool because whatever the wall displays in the background, the sky panels like mimic, kind of like Philips Hue lights would in your household.
Oh, so they're like connected.
Exactly. So what's nice about that is that you don't get any bleed or spill on the back wall because of how separate it is, and it's obviously much
I didn't even
more
know the
controllable.
S60s can do that.
I didn't either.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and I had to go sit with their tech guy, and I was like, "You got to show me all this wiring and technical stuff." And it's pretty impressive the computing power they have there. So
Yeah.
you can do pretty much anything. It's pretty much
Really?
limitless the opportunities you have in there. But that side of production is very different because even in the tour I had there, I'm now thinking about things on like a VFX point of view and controlling the world around me and not necessarily just the camera. So it's a lot more.
But
to
what are some of the
manipulate.
details that are like different from working on a wall versus working on actual location?
Well, one, it's all nice because it's all contained. It's much more easier to walk off. It's just an easier, quicker day to load in, wrap out off the bat.
Yes.
Depending on the job and what kind of like brand or company you're working with, it can be a lot cheaper. Like for example, if you're doing car stuff, I can't even imagine what it would cost to like get a track or like certain locations for that versus just shooting on a wall. So depending on what you want to do and like what your locations are, can definitely be a lot more cost efficient.
Yeah.
And the options are limitless there. You can get really close to the wall as well because it's 8K, so you're not gonna have any like pixelation.
So you're not going to
or
see that
bleeding.
isolation.
Yeah,
Interesting. Because I know some walls you have to shoot shallow because you don't want to see the actual diodes.
Absolutely.
Right.
And I was always very skeptical on the tech because of that. And I was like, I don't know if it really sells me just yet, but they've really, really thought out like all the ins and outs and dotted their I's and crossed the T's. And
Interesting.
the one thing that really kind of blew me away too is that all their motion trackers are actually on the ceiling. So they have all these like white patches on the ceiling. So and the motion tracking system.
And it tracks on to whatever you attach your camera.
Exactly.
And then it moves along with
but
it.
it's so much less likely to disconnect, to my understanding, because of that, because it's all within this like geometrical space.
Yeah.
So it's really, really cool. You guys got to come by for a little tour sometime. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm so down for that.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by that. I saw the 2D one before, so
Yep.
I kind of have an idea of how it works. I've always wondered, like, when it comes to like just the limitations of lighting, for example, like you can't really technically backlight from anything technically because the wall's there. Like, how does that work?
Well, the thing is, we actually have orbiters above our back wall there that are very directional, so you can backlight there. They're all pre-installed.
mounted from up top?
Yeah. Exactly. And they're all kind of pre-installed. So there's tons of options to control. Yeah. So like I said, like Ari's really thought it all out for them there. And they really went all out. So I'm super, super happy for them. It's a cool spot. It's nice and close by.
Yeah.
You can get a car in there. It's a really big space for production. So they kind of have an option for everything. And they have a bolt, a cyc wall. So
if you but I'm guessing you'd have to control technically the level from spilling too much into the wall. Does that affect the wall at all?
Like you can control like obviously the like the orbiters and the S60s, but the orbiters all have the barn doors and everything on there, so it is separated and everything.
So what about like key lighting? Like if you, I guess,
if you wanted to key, like when we were doing a demo in there, the gaffer was just walking around with a 300 and a light dome, and he was able to do
because you control the level.
Yeah, pretty much.
Wall,
like we have so much exposure with the wall and the sky panels. Yeah, like unless you had to really shape anything like really, really specific and really get in depth, obviously you might have to do a little bit more. But the overall ambience and level of things is pretty natural, just based on like what's happening off the wall. You'll kind of get those natural reflections from it. And the sky panels will mimic the same thing. So your hair, your backlight's all very similar to kind of what you're seeing on camera. So yeah, you might have to add a key depending on what you want to do, but it really takes out a lot of the work.
My understanding is that the LED walls become so powerful that like they can actually take a part of the wall and white it, like make it white light and use it as
absolutely.
like an ambient push
absolutely.
or a backlight or whatever.
And even their giant white cyc there, it's all lit with S60s as well. And same thing, if you want to chroma key it, they'll just put green on the sky panels, and it's a perfect chroma key. So yeah. So it's super, super cool. So yeah, like I said, we're just trying to level up as much as we can and be able to provide more to Toronto than ever, and hopefully a lot of more film productions coming here now as well. So we're just trying to get ready for that. And
so talking about rental houses, because me and Anthony come from a what do you want to call it? Sorry, owner-operator world where we own our own gear and everything like that. And a lot of people, there's always that debate of like going to rental houses or buy or rent, And someone coming from a rental house, do you find that like renting is most beneficial for production, for single entrepreneurs, put it that way, freelancers, or do you find that owner-operator makes more sense?
I think it gets to a point where it's going to be a mix and match. I think like everyone, you kind of have to start out as an owner operator. I don't think anyone's going to like hire you out of film school without a camera. If you say like, oh, I can film this for you, right? It's kind of hard to sell yourself.
You got to have something.
Yeah, but it gets to a point where, first of all, like all the cameras nowadays are pretty good. I think it's almost impossible to buy a bad camera at this point. But at the end of the day, it gets to a point, the bigger jobs you work on, different jobs are going to require different things. So this year, I've been shooting a lot more red than usual. I usually shoot ARRI, but just because of, the requirements Post wants, they want a lot more 8K stuff, all their social content, all their lower thirds and everything like that. That's just kind of what they've been requiring. But that doesn't change the fact I still own an abundance of gear. Like I have a tilted nucleus. I have a couple aperture lights. I have a 6-channel Hollyland headset system and all that stuff as well. So I do own a bunch of stuff myself, but those are things that are going to come with me on every single job that I know that I can attach to an invoice. I used to have a Ronin, but it's the size of my coffee table, so I got rid of it years back.
Ronin 2 or?
Yeah. So way back I had the Ronin 1 and everything like that. But I had a Ronin 2 for like a very brief period of time, and then it just got to a point when I was working at OC. I'm just gonna use ours because it's to a point. But the Ronin also wasn't something coming with me on every job, like as an operator for sure. But when I was like focus pulling and everything, not so much. So I've always been keen on things that I can just bring on almost every job, like my cart, my headsets, my fizz unit, matte box, like all that stuff. I've debated on buying a camera this year. I was kind of debating on getting a Mark III C300. It's like a nice. Yeah, they're great. Super versatile, great for commercial, a bit of everything.
Documentary is amazing.
And it matches to a Mini pretty well if you have to do that. But like I said, just every job kind of requires different things. So that's the only thing. But I'm very split between it because there's definitely some things I think it makes so much sense to own, especially if you're like in this business and are taking last minute jobs. It's nice to kind of have like a last minute emergency
to have a kit that you can run with.
Like, but I don't think you necessarily need everything and all the bells and whistles per se, because it's a lot of financing just to go.
It's expensive.
Go in debt for your whole life, paying off a Steadicam or what it may be, or right. Yeah. So I think it really depends kind of what you get into. Like some things you definitely kind of have to own, but I think it gets to a point where you can kind of balance it out and kind of find that balance between what do I need to rent for this specific job versus what do I know I need to bring on every job type thing. Yeah. So that's kind of how I've approached it. So it's a nice balance of it.
And like in terms of like being a DP or an operator, are there any jobs that you haven't done yet that you want to like, okay, I haven't done a car commercial yet, I want to do that? Or
it's funny, this year there's actually been a lot of car commercials, which has been really nice because I do enjoy doing that stuff. Like the commercials I always have the most fun on regardless of what it is. It's just when we're selling a brand and not necessarily a product.
Yes.
Like when you look at advertising in North America, it's very much like buy this product, buy this drink, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
When you look at advertising in like Europe, it's very much like, sell this lifestyle, sell this brand. So that's kind of the advertising that's always appealed to me a bit more. So luckily the car commercials tend to be a little bit more like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm trying to think. Like I've always, in terms of like car stuff, I've always wanted to do like something like really abstract, like something like Lexus. They do like really like dark, abstract, like shadowy kind of.
They use a lot of like visual effects too.
Yeah. Like I'm very big on like moody looking stuff, like kind of darker stuff.
Yeah, because like a Honda thing it's kind of like you've seen it.
Yeah.
Or RAV4,
Yeah.
Toyota, RAV4.
Yeah. No, luckily I can honestly say I've had the honor of working on like a nice variety amount of stuff. And like I said, like in film school, if you were to tell me I'd have like 90% of these opportunities I've had over the past couple of years, I would truly never believe it.
Yeah,
of course.
So I don't take it for granted any day at all. So I'm super thankful for all the opportunities and many more that come this way. But yeah, I don't think there's anything that I'm specifically looking for at this point, but who knows? I'm sure it'll change down the road. But yeah, it's been a fun rodeo.
How about stuff that you don't like fully enjoy? Like some people don't like doing the tabletop like food or product stuff. Like me.
It varies. Like for me, it's all about having that variety. Like I hate feeling trapped in like one like niche market. And I feel like the bigger the DP you are, that's kind of what happens. Like you get labeled like the car guy. And if that's the case, like good for you.
Yeah, you're on the right track.
But there's just certain things I don't necessarily want to get like stuck in a specific market of. Like if you love product stuff, like for sure that's great, like that's the world you want to execute. I worked on like a Caesar salad dressing thing a couple weeks ago, and it's like as producty as it gets, and it's like a 15-hour day of just slow-mo of salad dressing
and different kinds of like funky ways to shoot
and it's
it.
Like on those days, I'm really just like, a start, stop, and playback technician 100%. More than anything. And
it's not very stimulating.
Yeah, and it's really the art people are like going to town. Like they're making
they're the ones who are dying.
Food stylists.
Yeah. So I have fun on those ones, but I feel like if I was trapped in that world, I would just get a little boring and repetitive. And same when I work on narrative stuff. Like I like doing it every now and then, but if I'm stuck on like a show that's just like reverse 75 mil close up all day long and waiting for these actors to get their lines,
it's typical coverage.
I'm just gonna get a little bored of it. So I don't mind doing it, but I do really appreciate the variety of work that kind of comes my way and being able to switch it up and not kind of getting stuck in one world versus another. So
I'm in the same boat personally as well. Like I think anyone is after a certain, like maybe doing features, like if it's your first feature, like, oh, this is amazing. But I think after a certain amount of time, you're like, okay, I've done this like a lot.
You'd almost have to get into like A24 type productions where you can have a little bit more fun with it.
Yeah,
you can
exactly.
be a little bit more experimental.
That's kind of almost why, like, I feel like this is what would happen to me at least. Like, if you do features, I'd want to do like a run and gun indie film. You know, just like go back to the roots almost of like this is just pure like raw filmmaking.
Yeah, exactly.
As opposed to like,
well, what I like about features is like you can go down that route.
Yeah,
like you can go like. Sorry, I don't know if this is the right term, but cinematography mistakes can be an artistic choice.
Yeah.
And it'll be okay. In commercial world, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Like you were just talking about being dark. Like every single DP loves dark.
Yeah.
But almost every agency hates it. they hate it on set. They love it when they see it, but they don't like it when they're on set because
it's
they
a
don't want to
tough
risk
sell
it.
for the client, and I get it. And it's like the commercial world's so interesting because of that dynamic. Because like even on set, it's like, you know, we'll shoot something, it'll look great, and now we need the agency approval before we can even get the client approval. And it's like this whole like pyramid chain of command, and it is fascinating to watch it happen. It is kind of funny. Because like I said, everyone on the agency or the client point of view like has very conflicting things. Someone will like it, someone will hate it, and it's very
I've always
polarizing.
found that very, very interesting because I feel like everybody, like A24 is exploding, right? As one of probably growing to be one of the biggest production companies in the world, right? And it's like A24, the reason why people love it is because of how like original things feel, right? Like Moonlight, when they came out with Moonlight, like everyone was like, holy crap, like this is everything felt different and it felt new. Euphoria exploded with their cinematography. But it's like when it comes to the actual process and actually making it, it's so very few productions that actually want to do that. It's a lot of it's very almost cookie cutter studio like type shoots where everything is, like you said, 75 coverage wide, and then you know you do that over and over
and that's why I could never work on like those Hallmark features, like, you know,
because it is like that.
And like don't get me wrong if you're in that boat, but like I know hearing from the DPs, they get frustrated because they want to make things artsy and cinematic, and then production won't let them because it just doesn't fit the aesthetic that they have for their stuff. And it's like that with commercials too. Like it's very much, you have to fit the brand guidelines, and that's like the biggest priority for them. And I get it. Sometimes, you know, you can spice things up and add a little cinematic flair, but it's at the end of the day, they really just want to make sure it's within the guidelines. That's what they're really worried about.
I think that's part of the debate, and I know like it can go both ways, but like me and Anthony talk about it all the time about branding and stuff like that. It's like when you create a commercial, very few people care about the actual product in the commercial. People care about how it integrates with their life. That's high level commercials. Right. High level commercials tell you how their product affects your life because they're solving problems for you. Right. So, but the problem is the process that is actually made is made in a sense to highlight the product, not so much the story. And a lot of times, like in the client world, at least, they'll sit back and be like, yeah, but we really want to show this little, like, I don't know, strip that is on our case because that's very unique to us, you know, but you're sitting there like nobody cares about the strip.
And that's the biggest disconnect. And it's hilarious because it's like they're thinking of the things that like their competitors and like the people they work with in marketing are probably paying attention to. But at the end of the day, the random person who's on the other end of that screen doesn't care for most minute details, right? That's the funniest part of all of it. Just all this bickering for something that's really so much nonsense at the end of the day.
And I just don't see how that can ever mend. Like, I think they're always going to be like that.
But I think the beauty now of like the diversity of like the type of media that are available, and like you can create the UGC stuff and like the stuff for TikTok where you have influencers, like there's different types of content that you can create.
That's a whole other
to
industry.
do different things. So like if you want to highlight the features of the product, maybe you do a UGC style piece of content. If you want to build like the brand and tell the story, then you do the commercial. You know what I mean? And I think there is a unique blend there. And I think as long as the agency is like with their strategy with the client is clear about that, like if this type of content is for this, this is not that, we don't need that because you have this. Like we're doing both. I think that's where it comes in. If you're trying to do everything at once, sell the product,
which a lot of
build
people
the story,
try to do.
It's a mistake.
And it's almost like if you're trying to sell a drill in a commercial, it's not so much like what is the drill's features. It's more so you want people to feel like it's cool that you got that drill. So you want it to look cool. But it's not going to look cool when it just doesn't feel cool. When your lighting is all just safe and like, you know what I mean? It's a crazy mix.
Like a lot of the Tide commercials, you know, it's all the same kind of, that's
exactly.
the feel. Or like what's a good example? Like what's that paper towel you always see?
Oh, Bounty or Charmin.
It's like the same commercial.
It really is. Literally, quite literally.
And it's like I know what it does. Like I know a paper towel is absorbent. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
How can we change it up a little bit differently? Maybe is I don't know. It's tough. I think agencies have a lot. They have a lot like riding on them. Obviously, so it makes sense.
And there's a lot of back and forth, and like it's funny because I get to see that a little bit more as a DP, depending on like how early I get brought into that pre-production, and it's just mind blowing to me. It's like this is what they want to do for like this giant brand. I'm like, okay, but it's like it's crazy, and it's just like, you know what, the internet trends, right? Like everything's like short 7-second 9/16 TikTok content now, and unfortunately, that's the pressure the agencies get from the client because they see these analytics and they see the numbers. They're not looking at the content, they're looking at the numbers, and that's now what they want to do.
You're right.
And it's funny because like I don't necessarily like it's saving them some money, but not as much as you'd think. It's still quite a lot of money to shoot like a high-end TikTok or whatever it may be. But I don't necessarily think the advertising is as effective. You might get it, you know, a bit more views, but how much draw are you actually getting?
Are
the
the views quality?
Exactly.
Views,
yeah, exactly.
Right?
For sure. So it's very interesting to see where things are going on the commercial side now because it's very prioritized for social.
Yeah.
And 916 and loading 916 frame guides into an Alexa Mini every other day.
It's a thing. That
it needs to be a built-in preset at this point, to be honest with you. But
I know. Like, I'm hearing about a making of a new rotating sensor. That's, I'm just like, oh my Lord.
Yeah.
It's not stopping. It's going to happen. You know, these things, like this is technology that's coming out. Same with AI and everything like that. Like this is all stuff that's just coming out. It's going to integrate. You got to get used to it. It's part of the game. But I still feel like, you know, ultimately when push comes to shove, like you're talking about effective advertising, right? Like if you're advertising something just for constant numbers and you're playing the TikTok game is much like the YouTube game.
Yeah.
It's every day. It's all about quantity. And you need to be consistent. Otherwise it doesn't work. Right? As opposed to creating a commercial that could affect you, watch it once and you'll never forget it.
Well, here's the thing though,
You know?
like from like an agency standpoint, like how effective is the commercial? You know what I mean? Like maybe back in the day, it was like the thing to watch. People were on TV, but like the attention spans are so much smaller.
Yeah.
I can see what they're saying in terms of like this type of content is going to convert more if we just produce the volume.
Yeah.
You know, and then retarget and then keep doing it and then try different creatives for it. Like I can see also like they are driven by numbers. So the numbers are telling them something to guide them that way.
Yeah.
And it makes sense because like for me, for example, and I'm like even in the commercial world, I'm not watching a lot of commercials like in full length.
Yeah.
You know, but since I'm into the storytelling, I want to. But like as a consumer,
I'm
skipping through that
tempting.
shit.
Yeah.
So it's like I think the agencies have the consumer battle where it's like people are kind of like. I think consumers are kind of confused right now. They don't know what they're getting. They're just like it's constant information all the time.
Yeah,
absolutely. How do we snag like?
And it's
1%
like
of that?
even when you look at those like Super Bowl commercials, like obviously so much money is actually spent just getting it in the spot.
Millions.
But like just when you look at the quality that comes out of it, it's like it just gets people talking. Like those are ads that get people talking when they leave the game. And I think that's so much more effective than just having something that's in your face that someone just wants to skip constantly. You know what I mean? So
exactly.
It's one thing to annoy your consumer. It's another thing to actually have an effective ad that speaks to them, right? So it's just finding that happy medium that works for an agency, and it's tough with everything constantly changing and the mediums changing,
especially
constantly.
now, like with AI integrated in. It's almost like it gets more and more confusing. Like now, as creators are confused. Like what can it do? I don't understand. Like you talking about consumers being confused. Creators are like, what is happening?
Yeah,
you're telling me I could relight my shot in DaVinci Resolve?
Yeah.
Like what?
Yeah,
you know,
it's
like
scary where it's
it is kind of scary, isn't it? What's your what are your thoughts on that? Like, do you see like we've talked to a few people about it. We talk about it all the time. Like, some people think it's like dire. Some people think it's a blend of tools and like skill sets.
Yeah,
I'm personally like I'm more on the skeptical. I'm like very hesitant about it end of things, but I want to hear kind of what you think.
I'm like 50-50 with it. I think at the end of the day, it's all based on whatever you're feeding it to, right? Like, for example, if Spotify has artificial intelligence and if it's just suggesting music I like based on my playlist, like, sure, I'm all for it.
Right.
The chat GBT stuff is kind of interesting. I've only tried it a little bit. And like, you know, I imported a script into it and asked it to like generate some treatment images, and it was pretty scary at how well it was able to do it. So it is crazy with where it's going. At the end of the day, I think it's just like cheating on a test. I think it's in some things it's, you know, a tool that it could help you.
Yeah, I agree.
But in other things, it could be a way of just cheating and just getting by. And how well is that really going to progress you in the career as well, right? So I think it's just one of those things where, just like candy, it's all about moderation and how much you want to rely on it. I have to play with it a little bit more. I've only tried it out here and there, but I think for the editing softwares, it's pretty cool. Like for podcast content like this, I think what Premiere's working on and everything like Adobe showed me at NAB, I think it's really, really cool. They're trying to like automatically splice and cut the cameras based on like who they see and everything.
The Firefly stuff's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Especially in, like, even on the Photoshop side of things and like Lightroom, it's like it's getting crazy.
Yeah. And cool. The other day, one of my sound engineers texted me and he said he was able to remove the lyrics of an original song that they were using for something. It was from the artist and everything, but they just wanted the instrumental. And he's like, AI was able to flawlessly remove his lyrics and just generate whatever was missing on top.
The music industry is getting wildly affected by it because they're remixing songs and they're taking voices of people and creating new songs with their voice. Which is just...
That makes sense.
Anybody can have a Drake feature now. It's kind of
crazy, right? Because Drake... I don't know about Drake specifically, but a lot of artists don't own their stuff. The record label does. So they technically own your voice, which is just wild to think.
It's that Black Mirror episode, like really coming to life. Like what's going to happen when like someone passes away and the label owns everything? Are they just going to keep automatically generating stuff? It's going to be really interesting to watch.
They've talked about how they can now take your memories and like integrate. They're talking about technology that can integrate into your memories and your psyche. So when you die, you're on a hard drive. And then that could be then put into something else.
That's crazy.
So you can technically live forever, which is weird
to
think about.
I'd rather live in a cabin.
It's just getting to be too much. Like it, like everything, there needs to be a good balance of it, right? And I think people need to live a little bit more in the present. I get totally the AI stuff, but
I don't know. Sometimes I'm deep. It's like it's 1 a.m. I'm on like my
You're
phone.
in a rabbit hole.
I'm like I'm on Instagram and I'm like, and I'm seeing everyone. Oh, you make money with AI. How do you make? And it's like I'm seeing like I'm like. There's like life outside of this weird virtual world and like metaverse. Like I don't know. Maybe I'm just like adverse to it. I think as like a business owner, you should embrace the tools. Because it's not going anywhere. But as a human being, I'm like, I like simple things.
But I think that's what's interesting about our industry is our industry is both business and creative. It's one of the rare industries that are, right? And I think that's where like the creative side of things, like if you stop getting creative, what ends up happening, you go through what we're going through right now, the superhero fatigue.
Right?
Exactly. Where people are like, oh, it's the same thing. They might love it at the start, but then later on, the consumer base is like, come on, give us something. That's why A24 is exploding. But it's kind of like, are we going to feel that same way? That's the one thing I always wondered in my head. Like as creators, are you just going to get bored that you can this and then all of a sudden, boom, everything changes and you're like, yeah, that's the look I wanted. And you're not even excited anymore. Right? And you're just like, because I'm not hands on.
It's like the shoemaker kind of like vibe. Like you want to be the person creating the art, I guess. And I think if you detach yourself too much from it, it just becomes like a job.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
that's the one thing I was thinking about too. Just like how much is too much when it comes to it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Who knows?
But do you think it's going to affect the business, like even especially in rentals, right? If half the things you guys rent out are now obsolete because of AI, do you think it's going to affect your business?
It's hard to say. I don't necessarily think it's going to affect rentals so much. Like I can't see them doing like an automated rental system just because of like how like the back and forth between the client and the rental agent is so like much between the broken communication that producer has with the DP, the AC, and vice versa. There's just so much of a email chain that has to be diagnosed before a quote can even be generated. Or I'd be curious to see how AI would manage that email chain of broken telephone between everyone in a production.
Get a discount with an AI talking to you.
And that too. Like the AI would have to really sweet talk a rental agent at that point, right? But it'll be interesting to see. I think it's going to affect post before it affects the people on set and in production. I'm curious to see how it's going to affect like DMX people and lighting down the road as well. I think that'll be a thing where it's just going to be like, Philips Hue lights. It'll just automatically sync off beats and you just
voice
throw
command
in and you just throw in a couple hues and it'll do the rest, right? So I'm curious to see like in what parts of the industry it starts to really, really overstep. But like the writing side of it, the post side of it for sure.
Obviously the writing they're going through right now.
It's like the pre-production and the post-production kind of the two ends are where we're going to see the fastest automation. And then the middle we'll see.
Unless they start, generating robots, I don't think we're going to have an AI key grip coming up anytime soon.
Just a bunch of robots going in and out of a truck.
Exactly. But hey, Boston Dynamics could be close at this point. So we'll see what happens, right? So it's a crazy world we're getting in, and the technology is constantly changing, but which makes it also very, very exciting too. Because even the camera to cloud stuff's amazing. Like I did a job in February, and we just uploaded everything right from the red straight to cloud, and I had a synced interview by lunch from the editor. I couldn't believe it. Yeah, literally. Yeah, from 2 cameras, we shot probably 9 to 10 in the morning for the interview. He had the whole feed by like, I think 11ish. And then when we wrapped for lunch at like 1 p.m., he sent me a proxy interview all synced up, ready to go.
What's the process like that for a shoot like that? Like, what do you have to make that happen?
Well, Red actually just did a new update. So they had Frame.io. We had a Raptor. So they did an update where they had Frame.io built in. So you just have to connect to your server and everything like that. And it'll upload the proxies automatically. So
from the camera wirelessly to...
Yeah, so it does it from the card, which is interesting. So it'll do it wirelessly, and if for some reason like you lose internet connection or something like that, whenever it does pick up again, it'll just continue writing from the card or whatever it may be. So it's not like it's, you know, while it's rolling, it's uploading. It's a processed feed from the card that's getting delivered. But it was pretty good. I was really shocked at how fast it was. Like I was always skeptical of it because I always thought it was just while you're recording, it's gonna upload. I'm like, if my Teradek glitches, is that the feed you're gonna get? You know what I mean?
Right.
But I was pretty impressed. Like obviously it was a proxy cut, but you know, just for him to have a faster way of editing and post and everything, I was like, wow, this is really cool where the technology is going. So camera to cloud and AI seems to be the biggest thing going forward in terms of like those technical advancements on that
Is there
side.
any specific product or any specific technology that is coming out that you might know of that you could share?
I'm trying to think of new things. Atomos has some cool new monitors that are doing the camera to cloud stuff too. So one thing I like about that is that not only can you now do like ProRes RAW to your Atomos monitor and record, you know, a better feed to the monitor, but now you can also upload those files directly to the cloud through Frame.io, proxy, whatever format it may be. There's some new transmitter companies that I think are going to potentially take out Teradek, hopefully.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, like Vaxis maybe?
No. The issue with Vaxis is that they run on a frequency that's better on like the South Asia side of things.
That's where they're from.
Yeah, so they're better frequencies over there, but not so much here.
Yeah.
Avon Air is this Israeli company that I met out in Vegas at NAB, and they blew me away with like the technology they have in their transmitters. So they automatically encode everything through an H.265 signal, which is just so much better for transmission. It's much more lossless. They can do 4K, 60p. It'll automatically downsample the signal.
Wow.
Has a built-in intercom system. But just the range and the clarity I was getting alone, and the fact that they don't discontinue their products after 2 years is something that was really nice of them to kind of do. So that was kind of cool. I think Ari's going to come out with a new sky panel soon. I'm going to Cinegear next week in LA.
That explains why their S60s are half price.
That's my guess. Exactly, That's my guess.
They
That's
never
my
will
theory.
do that unless they create something new.
That's my theory. I think Aperture is going to have a 1200C soon based on kind of what they're advertising. So
I had a little bit of news on Aperture I can't share publicly, but
okay. Yeah.
I'll tell you off camera.
Yeah. So like I said, I'm pretty good with all the guesses and stuff. And working at Henry's, luckily, I still have a really good relationship with all the brands. So that's always nice running into everyone at all the trade shows and everything like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm very excited to see what new products are coming out this year and vice versa. And everything's changing. Everything's changing. And I think lighting wise, everything's going to be like waterproof IP68 pretty soon. I think that's going to be.
I think that should be standard. To be honest, these days.
How is it not? Like I can.
How is it not?
I can throw my phone into the ocean. I can't throw my 600D in there yet.
It's like it should be. Everything should be controlled wirelessly these days too.
Yeah.
Like,
so it's getting there. It's getting there. Like the tech is all kind of standardizing and getting to like a standardized format, which is good. And when you think about it now, it's like it's so easy and accessible for someone out of film school to kind of like learn the tricks of the trade, and like every light's RGB now, you know what I mean, and just like controllable from your phone, and you don't have to connect dimmers to anything. And it's
honestly, like, even as a DP, you're just in it like if you just learn false color,
exactly.
you might be fine.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Just learn false color.
So it's amazing where it goes now, and that's another thing I like about commercials too. We get to see a little bit of those toys a little bit more often.
Yeah, they come out a bit.
Yeah, I find on the narrative stuff, we'll do like a couple days of talking head for like one
stick
big.
to what they know.
Yeah. But maybe we'll do like one big scene throughout the week. But the commercial side, there's always like kind of one big production value asset, whether it be like Techno Crane or big Ronin movements or anything like that.
Or some sort of VFX element or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, you have that stuff in narrative too. But like I said, I think it's just a little bit more common on the commercial side too. And also at the end of the year, when I get to look back at, the fun year that I've had, it's just all the memories that I have from like 30, 40 commercials throughout the year, and like all the moments and laughs I've had with all the great techs and all the DPs and all the agencies. It's just, that's so valuable to me at the end of the year.
At your job.
Yeah. And it's like, don't get me wrong, like money's one thing, but it's truly the experiences and the memories that I take away from it all that really mean the most to me more than anything. So yeah, like at the end of the year when I get to reflect on that versus like 4 features that maybe weren't the funnest or whatever.
Right.
It's it's
I always
super,
talk
super
about
nice.
that, how like enjoying the process is sometimes like the most important thing. Like,
Absolutely.
you know, and like you can create something great and it's great, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of times, most people remember you for the last thing you did. And
Yeah.
so you can create something that was great 5 years ago. No one's going to remember it.
Yep.
Especially in commercial world. The narrative world may be a little different depending how big you are. But in commercial world, you can create a commercial that was made 5 years ago. It was amazing. But then like if you create 10 other commercials after that, no one remembers that one. But
Yeah.
people remember who you are. And they remember
Exactly.
the experience with you. They remember if they like you. They remember if they like working with you, right?
And that's the most important part. And like even like the interns that come and go at OC, I tell them all the time, it's like at the end of the day, like even if you're not like amazing at what you're doing, it's like I'd rather hire someone who's like a like-minded individual who's really easy to work with and willing to show me they're willing to give it their all than someone who's just kind of an asshole and not really there for everyone else and is just there for the paycheck, right? And it's that's what it's really all about at the end of the day. And Toronto is such a good like community for that. I find like we're all so connected here and it's like such an inclusive family. And I tell people all the time, like before I even got into film, like in high school, like elementary school, whatever it may be, it's like I've never felt just such a sense of community and like so accepted until like I really kind of dove into things.
Yeah.
And that's so valuable that we have that here. So it's really awesome that, you know, you guys have a platform like this and, you know, the CSC is willing to do all this stuff for everyone and the CFC. We just have so many resources and everyone's so willing to hang out and get together. And it's like, I don't know if it's like that in LA and, you know, some of the other cities.
I guess we wouldn't know, but Toronto definitely.
Yeah.
And it's honestly, I think that's the best part. And I always talk, you know, me and other DPs, any DP I've ever talked to, in fact, even people on the highest end, it's the same thing. A lot of them need to hire for people who are going to be, I'd rather hear, bro, let's make it happen. Than hear all this technical stuff about what could be go wrong and what, and like what, you know, what the obstacles are and all that kind of stuff. I'd rather be like, yo, let's put our heads together. Let's make this happen.
Absolutely.
You know, and I know it doesn't always work, but at least I'd rather have that personality than.
Yeah, because you can learn the technical stuff and anyone can like be taught stuff. You can't really teach personality and like dynamics and chemistry.
And that's the thing. It's such a mixture of like personality, like technical knowledge. And what people don't consider too is like set etiquette as well. It's like, how are you in front of a client, like in front of the production agency? Like there's times you have to be seen and not heard. And I'm glad I learned that earlier on for sure. Like, you know, you can't just be running up to the Leafs or the Raptors on a commercial and be like, sign this, sign that. You know what I mean? And it's not, I'm not saying people do that. I haven't seen that.
I've
it's
actually
like,
seen that happen.
But those are the things you have to, you know, kind of think about, especially like coming out of school and getting into things so young. It's just like, you know, it's the little things at the end of the day and just kind of how you carry yourself and approach yourself.
Pink tank top on the first day.
Yeah.
Right. I've had like, I'm not going to mention any names, but I've had people like I was shooting with a tennis star, Rafael Nadal, I think it was. Anyway, someone asked him for his autograph and I was like, oh, you can't be doing that. Almost got him fired, you know, for that spot. And then like, you know, even like PAs, if you come on the set of PA, don't direct actors.
Yeah.
Like, don't even talk to them.
Yeah,
you know,
even as a DP, I don't like doing
even
it.
as
You know what I
DP,
mean?
I sit back,
It's like,
I go to the director and be like, hey, maybe,
exactly. It's like, can you tell him?
I wouldn't go directly to the actor even.
Yeah,
right?
we've had that
like,
before. Yeah.
Like,
It's interesting, but it's, you know, you learn that quick. If someone does that on a larger production, let's say, like they're usually pretty much disciplined at that.
Yeah, for sure.
At that point, not that it's like a bad thing, discipline, but like just, you know, they're told like what's right or wrong.
Absolutely.
But for me, when I was on my like I said, my first PA gig, I knew like this is like I'm not saying anything. I'm doing my job. I'm looking around and that's it.
Yeah, just don't lose the truck keys.
I'm honestly the same way. Like even when like today, even if I was a gaffer, even though I was a grip, it's like even if I'm the most experienced person there, I'm not gonna. I know my space. I know my line, and I know what I'm not gonna say and who I can talk to. And I'm not gonna bother a director because I think I know something that they might not know.
Yeah.
Right. I'm here to do my job.
Especially as you get like further along in the industry, you know how much like mental effort the directors put into something. The DP, like to like chime in without any of the pre-pro, any of the other stuff.
Exactly.
It's like such a disrespectful thing.
You don't know the context of
and
what
that's
they
the
have
thing,
to do,
right? Yeah, that's the thing. And like I said, like being in the game for a couple years now, it's like I really do see like how deep those conversations go and like how early they start. And it's crazy how much planning goes into things, and it's crazy to see how much planning doesn't go into things at the same time, right? So it's always
both.
It's always fun to see what's gonna happen, right?
But I think a lot of people just like hear those stories. You don't hear about the Bryan Cranston story about how like a set deck person just said something and said, hey, you should say the line like this.
No way.
And then Brian loved it, brought it up to director, and ended up being in it.
Oh wow.
And then I think people hear that and they're like, "Oh,
That's one in
that's
a
how
million.
set etiquette."
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah, no.
Like that's
a very rare occasion.
Don't
You
do
have
that.
to have like, I don't know what you have to do that, but
Yeah.
I don't have that. So
Yeah.
that's some big cojones, I think.
But anyway, we love to ask every guest at the end of every single podcast advice for the young people. I know we kind of covered some of it, but we'll love just one last. I'll cap off Brandon's advice to all the people who are getting into the industry.
Yeah, like don't be afraid to jump on an opportunity. You know what I mean? Don't feel like, you know, someone else has it better than you, or you don't have like the tools to make something happen. At the end of the day, like if you're passionate about something, go out and chase it. Don't feel like you're restricted or hesitant by someone. Go and start those conversations. Reach out to people. Go have a coffee with someone. Don't try and sell yourself, but just go meet like-minded individuals and put yourself in opportunities and situations that'll help kind of grow you and where you want to go into the career. And shoot spec stuff. Spec stuff. It's truly what you have to do, or else you're going to be labeled the car guy or the Caesar salad dressing guy or whatever it may be. But it's like, if you want to shoot, go out and shoot the stuff that you want to shoot, you have to shoot it. And that's just the fact of the matter. No agency or commercial is going to trust you with a $80,000 Camaro commercial if you haven't shot a single car before. And that's just the fact of the matter. So it's one of those things where it's like, you know, you're not going to get like promoted in this industry, or no one's going to like hand something down to you. You kind of have to chase it. And you kind of have to prove yourself first. So it's like, don't be afraid to do that. Don't be afraid to like reach out to people and collaborate with people, no matter what level they are, because they still might be able and willing to do something and want to collab and do something nowadays too. So yeah, at the end of the day, just chase what you want, and don't be afraid of rejection. Don't be afraid of someone saying no to you, and it's going to happen, but you're not going to get to that next step if you don't try for it.
Yeah.
I think that's sound advice, and I think that's very common advice for everybody that I've ever had in this podcast. And like the one thing that I wanted to, you know, add on to that is just, you know, losing your sense of entitlement. And realize that in this industry, you're not entitled to anything. You have to go earn it. Go get it. And so, you know, you might be able, it's very easy to build up an ego. Maybe you worked on a Nike commercial 10 years ago and you feel like you should only work on Nike commercials from now on. But you have to realize that this is not how the industry works. Lose your sense of entitlement. You got to keep your ego in check. And like you said, just always stay hungry. It's like we just talked to Mike Ray yesterday or the other day, whatever it was that he was in here. A rep director, you know, and for someone like him, he even says, like, when you get repped, it doesn't even matter. Like, a lot of people think they get repped, they put their feet up on the table and that's it. I made it. You got to keep chasing. You got to keep going.
And that's another thing I want to say too. Like, it's truly about the journey and not the destination. Like, people think like once you get there, like that's it. And like, no, it's really, I think leading up to that is where you're going to have the funnest parts of your career, like coming up with the people you started with. I don't necessarily think the top is the peak.
I agree with that one.
I totally agree. I don't think there is a top, to be honest with you. Like, you win an Oscar, you're just going to stop?
Exactly. Like, it's just, you know, one roller coaster after another at the end of the day.
Honestly. You keep creating your own roller coasters.
Exactly.
Otherwise, you're just never going to go to the fucking amusement park.
And if you look at it from like an employment standpoint, the way I like to see it is like, I would just love to work with people that I enjoy working with every day for the rest of my life.
Exactly.
Pretty much
that I like doing.
In terms of, pure like trying to make ends meet.
I'd
rather spend time with people I like than
and that's what matters most at the end of the day. Like, when we're all on our deathbeds, are we really going to care about our Oscar films that we've all shot? Or are we going to think about all the moments and texts that we've come out with and all the memories we've had and the laughs we've shared on set? And like I said, that's what I've always valued most at the end of the day. So that's truly what I hope people get from set and just working in film in general.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. What a conversation we had.
Appreciate it, man.
Brandon.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me. It was great being here.